Cool, dude. Wanna go fly it? Yeah. Sweet.
Oh, kill switch isn't working. Nice!
It's the whole package.
I can't believe it works.
It's the real deal. How's it hanging? What's going on? Today we are in Shane's garage, and it's beautiful, I think. Today we're going to talk about something a little different, like budget paramotors, and how to get in on a budget safely, because a lot of people always ask me, like, I want to get into paramotors, but I don't have $8,000 to $12,000 to invest in brand new stuff, aside from the training factor. Today we're going to take an example of a budget paramotor and kind of discuss where to look for used equipment and what to look for to make sure it's not a death trap.
I know if this unwrapping is too loud. So, little bit of background. I have a good friend, Josh, who is a dirt biking buddy, who I met him 3 years ago or so, and he always wanted to get into flying. Never really had the budget, and he's like a serious competitive dirt bike racer, so his money goes into that. And then recently he kind of set a budget. He told me, dude, if you can find me a setup for $6,000, then I can do it. And I kind of told him, you know, if you try and find something new in that budget, it might not be the best thing. Try and find used. And I eventually found, just by talking to people, this paramotor for $2,500. I got him a wing for $1,200, which he already has and is already doing some kiting training with. But I just got this in the mail, and it's kind of a question mark. I don't know this unit. It's a PXP with a Monster Classic. The engine is based on the exhaust, I'm gonna say it's either from 2011 or 2012. And it apparently has 25 hours on it. So it's a pretty good deal. You know, new, this would be like a $7,000 paramotor. It was just kind of a deal that I found talking to people. I just asked Tucker to come help me, give me moral support, because I have to install a throttle on it and just kind of figure out how to put it together, give it the once over, and see if it's, you know, determine if it's airworthy. A lot of times when you look into budget motors, $2,500 or so, if you find a $2,500 motor on a classified ad, it's typically not a great deal. There could be something unsafe about it inherently by design, or it's in really bad shape.
So one of the common questions is, like, where do you find used paramotor gear? And the primary place I see a lot of people post stuff, it's a Facebook page called Paramotor Things for Sale. So look that up, I'll link it down below. But also things like eBay and Craigslist can work. Sometimes they're a little sketchier, like people that are like, I have this fan in my basement. They don't really know what it is. But other than that, word of mouth, like if you get hooked up with an instructor, they can call their friends and they can call their friends, kind of find something that might be a hidden treasure. So, Shane.
Yeah.
As far as engines go,
Yeah.
what would you look for in a good used engine? Just the engine, not the frame.
What I would say is, what I looked for was a Monster, because I know the Monster, and this is a Monster Classic, and I know it well, and I know the problems that this year had. Like, I know that it'll probably break pull start springs. This exhaust will probably at some point have to be replaced. A Top 80 is a good one that's been around for 20 years or so, and there's a ton of paramotors out there with the Top 80 engine on it that you can get relatively cheap. You can find them for $2,500 pretty regularly.
So as far as engines go, I think the two that are known to be pretty reliable in the paramotor world, the Top 80, like Shane mentioned, good for small pilots, and this guy here, which is a Vitrazzi Moster. I fly the most current one on the Scout. That's another good one to look for. This guy doesn't have a throttle set up, right?
Well, we have some choices. It came with two, a Chameleon, which is really bad for beginners, and then, what did you call this one?
Baby's first throttle.
Baby's first throttle.
Little Tykes. Yeah, the whole propeller safety thing, it kind of goes hand in hand with decision making and your gear. When you set up a throttle, anytime before you start the motor, you want to make sure that the cable is free and it returns and your carburetor goes completely to idle so that when you start it, it's going to be at idle. The thing I always go back to is I just don't really start them on the ground. I just start on my back. So you're safer, or strap it down. That's always the best decision.
You know, there's a ton of designs out there from like the late 80s about paramotor designs, but I think generally speaking, for me, the most important things are not so much strength of the cage, because training can kind of make up for that. But I think strength of the suspension system, swing arm system, and geometry of the swing arm system. I personally don't like high hang points. I know a lot of people fly them and prefer them. There's paramotors out there from, you know, the early 90s that would not tolerate high Gs. And most paramotors are not made for high Gs or even certified for high Gs. I don't know if this one's certified, but I can look at it and tell that the swing arms are super burly. The suspension system isn't my favorite, it's just a straight bolt, but it is a giant bolt. Some of them out there are just an M5 bolt stuck in, and I just know that if I fly one of those, it's not something that I'm gonna go out and do repetitive full stalls on and never have a problem. The frame rigidity itself looks pretty good on this. This also has an upgraded, this is the harness that came with it, the PXP harness, and this guy upgraded to a Dudek power seat. A lot of people love this harness, so I know it's probably good. But upon arrival, the first thing I check on a pre-flight of a paramotor, the most important thing to me is not falling out of the motor. Next thing is things not falling off the motor, so that would be like the engine. But the first thing I'm checking is the suspension system, the straps, harness, the seat board, leg straps, the buckles, and condition, security of all that stuff. Next is crap flying off the motor, and then what's going to catch on fire. That's kind of my pre-flight down and dirty. Not falling out, stuff not falling off, and not catching on fire.
So she's all in one piece. We got everything set up. Throttle's attached, cage is on, props on. Pretty much ready to see if it'll run. Overall impressions, so far it seems like a decent deal. Like Shane said, the motor itself is kind of older technology, so there's more potential for issues to happen. The netting could be better. It's not gonna save your hand if your hand goes into it, and it's zip tied completely on. But last thing, like overall ride quality, I guess you could say, paramotors deal with torque in a lot of different ways, and some are really good, some are a little sketchy. This one is what, like more on the sketchy side?
Yeah, it's just on the, it won't be a very intuitive handling machine, I think. If you kind of look at this centered up, you can see that the bars are actually mounted off to the side rather than having little spacer blocks that go over here. But what this also means is that when you're hanging from the harness, you're directly in between these bars. The engine is actually going to be off to the left side of you, like your body, which means when it pushes, it's going to yaw a little bit, making kind of a weird effect. The other thing is just the hang geometry of it, where the thrust line is in relation to where the swing arm is mounted. You can see that it's actually going to be pushing higher. So it's going to sit really high up on your back, which is actually really nice for launching in a way. But it's going to kind of push you forward when you step on the gas.
Yeah, overall impressions, I'd say it'll get you in the air. It's not going to be the best thing ever, but for $3,000, that's what you're getting. I think we'll probably throw some gas in it, see if it'll start up.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Moment of truth.
Yeah. If the weather's good tonight, we'll take it for a flight, see how it runs. But yeah, let's get some gas and see if she starts up.
Okay. What do you think, dude?
Feels like a paramotor.
Yeah.
It does feel top heavy.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel bad.
That's good.
It's not that heavy.
Yeah. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Okay, let me prime it just a tiny bit more. Oh, this is gonna get awkward.
Oh yeah.
Bring it in, buddy. It's alive!
Hey! That's not too bad.
Yeah, dude.
It's got a pretty peaky power band.
Cool, dude. Wanna go fly it?
Yeah.
Sweet. Oh, kill switch is that? Nice!
It's the whole package.
I can't believe it worked.
It's the real deal.
I probably look like a lunatic right now. I'm not this crazy.
That's an unfriendly sky. Alright, if you can't tell, we did not send it. There was no sending to be had. So no test flying of the $3,000 Paramotor, but I will say, just a concluding thought, the whole idea of this video was to show you kind of like what to look for to get a good deal on something kind of cheap and used. But I would say, if you're unsure about it, don't buy it. And the whole thing is, if you can find a legitimate good deal, a motor with really low hours, well put together, strong harness and frame and everything, that's great. But the flip side of the coin is sometimes I see people buying really, really cheap stuff, like $2,000, and the motor's not reliable, it's been rebuilt, the frame is sketchy, and you're just putting yourself in too much danger flying something that old that it's very hard to resist the urge to get in the air when you're like passionate about it. But I would say if you can't afford something that you'll trust your life with, just put it on the back burner for a little while. Wait until you can save up a little more money and get something that is gonna protect your life. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something and maybe inspired you to get in the sport at a lower budget, hopefully safely. So I'm headed to Twin Falls right meow. I'll see you guys in the next one for hopefully some base jumping. Till then, peace out. Zhup.